Okay, we are back. We are in chapter 8, part 3. And this story of Peter's mother-in-law is kind of makes me smile because I feel like I identify with her in a way. But also a little bit of archaeology here because I love archaeology, so I make some references to it if you can't tell already. But in the archaeology, they have been able to validate multiple times that they have discovered the home of Peter and Andrew. In a span of years, they've been able to prove this. But Peter and Andrew lived in the same home. It's also referenced in scripture that they were in the same home, and they lived with an extended family in this home. So everyone lived here. Well, in this archaeological find, they discovered that on their walls of this home was written Lord and what else? And Jesus written all over the walls. But another interesting tidbit is that at some point their house, their home, was plastered, had the walls plastered, which was a common thing that was done during that time when it was transitioned into a setting for having big groups of people gathered, which of course also again makes sense to Peter and Andrew hosting a lot of the church gatherings there, the early church gatherings. So just a side little note, but this is where this miracle takes place. Is Peter invites Jesus to the home, and this is where Peter's mother-in-law is lying lying in bed with a fever. And Jesus, again, simple healing here, just touches her. He doesn't say anything to her. He doesn't even pray or speak over her. He just touches her, and immediately the fever leaves. That authority that Jesus carries is so strong that the word is not even required. And he touches her, she is healed, and she gets up and waits on him. And that is what happens when Jesus touches us and cleans us, and we are revived and refreshed in our spirit. It gives us such a momentum and an excitement and a motivation to get up and start serving and worshiping, and as this one said, this translation says, waiting on the Lord, spending all of our time and energy pouring out ourselves to the Lord and in service for him. Now when evening comes, many who were just demon possessed were brought to him, and he drives out the spirits with a word. Again, Matthew harps on the simplicity of this, the simplicity of God's authority, healing and releasing captives. There we go. I will get my words straight one of these days, but I'm sorry. I struggle sometimes, some days. So this was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah, and Matthew again points out the prophecy about these 3 healings, that he took up our infirmities and carried our diseases. So Jesus has moved from the Sermon on the Mount, where it was teaching, to now this ministry of healing and deliverance. That's the word I've been seeking for a while, deliverance. So now he's showing that Jesus is Messiah in word and deed. And we're going to pick up, you know what? Let's go ahead and go to the next part. So when Jesus saw the crowd around him, he gave orders to cross to the other side of the lake. Then a teacher of the law came to him and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And there's 2 men that now come to him in this part, wanting to follow Jesus. But Jesus' response is kind of harsh, actually. It's not, in this culture now, we have this whole seeker-sensitive concept. And Jesus does not sugarcoat anything. In fact, he actually makes it harder for these men to want to follow. He goes to the root of the issue. But there's nothing comfortable about it. He's not trying to appease them. He's not saying, if you come, I'll give you coffee and a donut. He's saying, if you truly want to follow me, it's not going to be easy. In fact, if your expectation is what the other religious leaders experience and having this honor thrown upon them, I'm telling you, it's not going to be that way. Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. So it is not, don't follow me based on trying to get rewards, because you're not necessarily going to be reaping the most honor in all the places you go, because the gospel of Jesus is kind of confrontational, but it brings deliverance and healing, and it's powerful. So this other man comes up, another disciple says, "First, let me go and bury my father." Now, there's a lot of interpretations to this passage as to why this man did this, but the most consistent, especially from the Jewish culture makes sense, because if this man had truly lost his father at this time, the protocol of the day, of that time and of the culture, is that he would be in mourning for 7 days. And so he wouldn't have even been at Jesus's feet. He would be at home in mourning. So basically, what's going on here is this man is saying, let me wait until my father dies so I can collect the inheritance. And then when I'm in a good place and it's more convenient for me, then I will come and follow you. But Jesus knows the motive of his heart, as we have talked about in previous chapters. He knows the motive. He knows that this is that the man has no true allegiance and commitment, and that is not what he's requiring. Jesus requires full, complete commitment and allegiance to follow him, just as his other disciples have done. So here we go. We have left off now. If you're wanting to follow Jesus, and you're leaving it at this part, if you want to follow Jesus, then you cannot put off that decision. It cannot be delayed. You have to make that decision. You have to jump full feet in if you're going to truly be a disciple of Jesus, and understand that doesn't mean that it's all roses. Well, if it is roses, you're going to have some thorns. So let's pick up tomorrow with where he calms the storm.